global theme, and each city gets a stab at creating a theme for the rest of the world. And so this month is flow, and the theme was created and the illustration was done that's hanging outside on a poster by Mexico City. So we did ours for Charleston a few months ago, and hopefully some of you guys got to make it out to that. And so we thought of the theme flow, and we're in charge of trying to figure out who would be the best speaker locally to the theme and the best venue to host that, and what better place than Basic Kitchen, and what better speaker than Sarah Frick. And so Sarah Frick is the owner of The Works, and when you think of the word flow and maybe like sweaty and empowering and awesome and in shape and cool, you think of Sarah Frick. So I want her to come up here. She's going to do her talk, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A after. All right, give it up for Sarah.
All right, guys, thank you so much. So I'm usually talking to people's backsides. So if everyone could take child's pose, we'll begin. Okay, I just had to get that out of the way. I feel better now. So when they asked me to speak, I was super stoked because flow is such a big part of my life, and it has been forever. The word vinyasa, so I'm a vinyasa yoga teacher, and the word vinyasa means linking a breath to a movement. So the absence of flow in our life always shows up as resistance, okay? So who has ever done something in this room that they regret? Who has done that thing twice? Yeah, me too. Usually, I like to nail it home really, really fucking good. Okay, so when we do that, we can feel resentment. We don't feel so good. So that's what it feels like to not be in a state of flow. So who's ever done something in here where you feel like really, really proud of yourself? Yeah, you should. Okay, that's being in a state of flow. So this whole talk that I'm going to give this morning is how do we stay in a state of flow? Because we live these really busy lives. And it's like easy to say that. It's easy to say, I'm gonna have all these intentions and I'm gonna do them, but then we get to it and it's like, well, I've got my kids and my work and all these other things, right? So Danielle Laporte, if you don't know who she is, look her up. She's amazing. And she said, everything on your plate you said yes to. So that she's speaking to the busy mantra. So when you say yes to love, you say yes to loss. When you say yes to a career, you say yes to sacrifices. When you say yes to having children, you say yes to little people taking your heart and running around the world with them. You know what I mean? Every time my kids get in the car with someone else, I'm like, okay, you're driving me crazy, and I do want you to go be with those people, but please be safe. So I try to follow that as much as I can. My husband's sitting here, and I'm sure he's like, oh, I've heard the busy. I'm so busy, right? And when we get to in our state of busy, we're not in a state of flow. So I'm going to break down for you guys a few different things for me of where flow shows up. So we're going to talk about career first. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, what it is I do, where I was before I was at The Works, and we'll go from there. So I have been in movement therapy, yoga primarily, fitness, for about 16 years. It is the only grown-up job I've ever done. I don't know how to do a spreadsheet. I do know how to copy and paste, but Carter over there does a lot of that for me. So I think we can be really good at one thing, maybe not great at everything. So I owned a studio called Charleston Power Yoga for almost 10 years, and it was a really awesome experience. I had a business partner at the time who I had a great relationship with as well. And we got to a place where my classes were selling out. We were putting people in the lobby. We just didn't have any more room for growth. We had opened 2 studios. And John and I and Beth had been negotiating, maybe we should open a bigger studio, this and that. And then I was like, maybe I should go out on my own. And I was like really, really scared. I was scared for so many reasons. I was scared because, first of all, my unanswerable question is, do you like me? So I didn't want people to think, who does she think she is going out on her own, you know? Does anybody ever do that? Like, gosh, let me play small so that I don't make anyone else uncomfortable. It doesn't serve you. All you're going to do is keep hitting your head on the ceiling, right? So after a while, a lot of negotiations back and forth, we found a space downtown on Meeting Street. And I was like terrified to do this. I mean, really terrified. And Beth and I had a grown-up divorce, and she bought the business, and I left. And when I left with 2 teachers who both were like, where you go, I go. And so we left, and we didn't have a home. We're in the Gray Star building, so there was dirt, and it took a long time. I don't know if you've ever negotiated a lease with like people that have a lot of money, but it's a lot different than what I expected. They want to know a lot about you. So it took a long time. So I had these two girls, and I was like, okay, now what are we going to do? So the lovely people over at Still Soul, she was like, you can use my room. There's this little place called the Island Club on Sullivan's. Has anyone ever been? It's like a church hall. Yeah. It's like not pretty, but it was fine. So the three of us set out, and we're doing our thing, and we would have, we were going from these packed out classes and all this stuff to having like 2 people in our classes. And it was really humbling, really, really humbling. And it kept feeling like resistance to me. I was like, maybe I did the wrong thing. I'd come home, I'd cry, like all these things. But then little things just kept like pushing me. Then like another teacher left. She's like, I love what you're doing. I really want to be part of this movement, this works movement. And then another teacher, and then another teacher. And then there was these 7 girls, and we had these 2 spaces. And I was like, something has to give. Like, I can't, this isn't going to support what we're all trying to do. So I was driving around one day when we had, I think, just broken ground probably at our new space. And there was the old Bikram studio, which was on President Street. And it had been up for lease forever. And I was like, called one of John's buddies, he's a builder, and I was like, hey, can you tell me what this looks like, how much it is, blah, blah, blah. So he called the guy who was the landlord, and the landlord was like, it's $8,000 a month. And I like spit out my water, and I was like, cute. So, because we literally didn't have any money. And so I was like, who's the landlord? And he told me. I was like, oh, that was my landlord at Charleston Power Yoga. I was like, I know that guy. I was like, tell him I'll give him $15,000 in cash, and we'll do 6 months. And he went back, and the guy said, sold. Don't call me if the building burns down. I don't want to hear from you. And I said, I don't like you anyway. I don't want to hear from you either. So we went in there, and we went from selling rooms of like 2 people to like maxing out rooms of 65 people within a week. So that was like a flow state. So a flow state is being in the zone. It's being present. And we've all experienced that, right? We've experienced that in our lives when we're not present, and we've experienced times where like we are dropped in our body and we were just dead present. And so if we can operate in that space and see these little tiny milestones to getting to where we want to be and staying like in our lane and staying present, that is when things in our life really do, I don't want to say like explode, but they get really big and they get really powerful. That doesn't mean that it's easy. I need a sip of water, hold on. I'm really nervous, you guys. Look at my hand's like shaking. Well, my friend Stacy, who's one of my best friends, she owns Hamden. She said to me last night, I was already asleep. She goes to bed when I wake up. We are in very different schedules. She said to me, she goes, walk into that room like you walk into your room when you teach. And I was like, damn, that's right. Because I own that room, right? I do. And so that flipped a lot for me last night. So even though I was up till 4 recreating this, I feel better. But okay, so back to this flow state. So we're in there, and even though it was challenging, and we're hiring new people and creating this new pattern and all these different things, it felt so good. Every day I would wake up and I was like jazzed to go to work. I was like, yes, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's a huge thing of staying in your lane. So being in your lane doesn't mean that your head's in the sand at all, because you have to be aware of what other people are doing. But it's like, for me, if you're in your lane, you can compassionately pass people. You don't have to be an asshole about it. You can be like, hey, what you're doing is really cool, but like, I'm gonna go this way and do this. And so I found that because there was a lot of pushback, even in the yoga and wellness community, people love to talk, okay? And if you're up to big shit, people really wanna talk about it. And I'm okay to own that. Like, what we're doing, I think, is a movement. The Works is a yoga class. It's a yoga class that involves heart work, which is my favorite part, meditation, cardio, glute work, core work, sculpt. It's like a busy, busy hour. But when you come in there, if you can get a room full of people and get them moving and breathing, and then you can talk to them when they're energetically so open, it's a really powerful experience. And nobody complains when they leave with a great ass and a 6-pack. Nobody. So open heart, great body. It's been really, really special. So that's just a little into the career. One thing else I'll say is, for me, is to hire good people, and don't be scared to celebrate your people. that doesn't mean that like you're not great yourself, because it takes a community and it takes a team. And when you put good people in the place where they're really strong, then they're in flow too. So it keeps everyone just like moving right along. And I'm so blessed to have so many strong women that stand beside me, not behind me, but stand beside me and elevate me. And I hope I do the same for them. Do I, Carter? Thanks. You're hired. You're still hired. Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about, this is a 3-part chat, is relationships. So being in flow in relationships. So the first relationship I'm going to talk to you guys about is your relationship with yourself, because that's a really intimate one. That is the most intimate relationship you will ever have. Everywhere you go, I say this all the time, but everywhere you go, there you are. Right? Who do you go to bed with every night? Yourself. Who do you go to meals with every day? Yourself. Who do you look at naked in the mirror every day? Yourself. Right? That's pretty freaking intimate. If you're looking at that person and you are like, I hate this person, you got to figure out how to get in flow with that. And that is not, like I said, like hard is not bad. Hard is just work. So there's different ways that we can do that, like sitting with yourself, figuring out what's coming up, what is working, what isn't working. I think we can all understand, like, I know for me, like when I'm going through a really stressful time, I like live in my busy and I live in excess. So I'm like eating shit off my kids' plates, like I'm running around, I'm probably pouring the extra glass of wine like a maniac. True? John won't even look at me because he thinks I'm so nervous. And so I think we can relate to that for sure, right? And then when we're feeling good about ourselves, when we're getting the fitness or getting the art or getting our creative self doing things, we feel really good. So, you know, my thing about that is like to lean into those places. I actually have a friend this week who's a dear friend of mine, and she decided, she was like, I'm going to get sober. She was like, it's not working for me anymore. It's not working for my life. It's not working for my kids. She's like, I want to be in my flow state. I'm like, hell yeah, girl. Let's do that, you know? So I think we all can have these come to Jesuses with ourselves that aren't easy. And if we have really good people, a lot of times they'll be like, sit your butt down. It's time to talk. And that can help us redirect and reroute. I'm a big believer in the reroute. Those of you that are in my room know I talk about it a lot. I don't believe that we've ever gone down a road too far not to turn it around. And that's the beauty of grace, and that's the beauty of redemption, and we all have that in our lives. So being aware of that, the thing about grace is if you want yourself to have grace, you have to give other people grace as well. Okay, so that's like when in flow, we flow, right? Where energy goes, energy goes. So if you're giving it, you're going to be receiving it too. Cool? So the next relationship part for me is probably the more challenging one, and that's our love relationships. And those are the ones, I know I can speak for myself. I have some friends in my life that have experienced this, especially when you add in, like, I have 3 kids, 5 and under. They are so cute, but they are motherfucking crazy, right? They really are. They're insane. I have 2-year-old twins and a 5-year-old son, and they are the light of our lives. But him and I were talking yesterday. We kind of had a little thing, I can say that, on Wednesday. And I was like, can you, I mean, just to, it's like, we go home and we're busy and we're trying to take care of ourselves and our businesses and our children, and we forget how to connect. And like just something as simple, I was like, last night he was coming home, I was like, let's just like put the phones down and sit outside and make eye contact. Right? These like little things that are free that we forget because we walk around like this all day. And I do too, totally. It's hard to cut it off. John and I did a meditation with Karen Antos one day, and she was like, she said this, and it's so obvious, but it just really rung true to me. Like everything in our life is addictive, including success. So when we have all these great things, we're like, yes, I'm flowing, I'm moving. But we have to remember there's other people like in our circumference that we need to include in that flow state as well. So just taking the time, I think, to see yourself in those relationships, to acknowledge that other person. And John says I'm really bad about saying I'm sorry, so I'm going to work on that. I love you and I'm sorry. Don't expect it again, that's it. One thing I will say too, I have been married before and I was in a relationship before I met John. And even though we do come up against each other a lot, we're always on each other's team, and that's huge. So that for me is like such a commitment. We're always heading towards the same vibration. We're always elevating each other. John's always supporting me in what I'm doing with my business, with the children, with my friends. And I think at the end of the day, is it like Valentine card love every day? No. If you have a marriage like that, I don't want to hear about it, okay? Because you're lying. But I think if the important things are, at the end of the day, if you can get it out and sit with someone and be like, okay, well, these are the foundation and the fundamental things that really matter to me, you can stay in flow. Okay, water, pause. Woo. Like tequila, pause. Okay. So before I go on, I know we're going to ask questions at the end, but does anyone have any questions before I do one more? No, you guys are like drinking. I'm like, you, in the back. Okay. Oh, that's another thing before I move on. Humor is huge. Like, I swear it's an Indigo Girls song. I can't remember. But it was like a live concert, and she was like, if you don't laugh, you'll cry your eyes out. And I'm like, I don't know why that rings so true to me. Like, yes, things are challenging. Life can be challenging, but you have to there is beauty in the breakdown always, okay? So the last piece I'm going to speak about too, because I think these three things are things that we all experience in our life: career, relationships, and grief. So grief has been something that has been handed to me, especially, and even in sadness, there is flow. Okay, so I'm going to try to get through this without crying. I'll do my best. So John and I, a lot of you know our story too. I know you girls do, and you girls too, so. But, so John and I have 4 children, actually. Our first daughter, Grace, I was pregnant with Grace. We had this great pregnancy. Everything was really, really good. And then we got to the very end of my pregnancy, and we found out I was measuring small, but my midwife at the time, was just the best. And she was like, you're so fit. That's why. And she's like, you're fine. And I was like, I really think I want to get on an ultrasound. Let's just see what's going on. I was like 37 weeks pregnant. So she put me on there, and they noticed that the baby was small, but they were like, I think your placenta has just given up. Let's get the baby out and get her on your breast. It's going to be okay. So we went in to have our baby, and the baby came out, and she was not breathing. And that was like one of the most present I've ever been in my life, because it really will drop you into a flow state. Having someone you love beside you and having a moment where you're like in shock and in grief, and you don't even know what's going on, and you know that the only thing you can do is breathe. So the baby came out, they intubated her, and we were at East Cooper, and they brought her to MUSC, and she lived there for 3 days. She was born with a paralyzed diaphragm. So it's not something you can see on an ultrasound, because you breathe for babies when they're inside of you. So she looked fine on the ultrasound. So the night that she passed away, we were at the NICU, and they let me take off my top, and they put her on me. And we sang, Jesus Loves Me, and we baptized her. And I'm not telling you guys this to make you feel bad for us, because we have a really beautiful life. I'm telling you this because we all experience moments like this. And I have never in my life, ever, I've lost my mom, John's lost his mom. We've had experiences that have brought us to our knees. I have never, ever in my life been more present, ever. And I'm so grateful that I had that time with her, because it has made me realize how important so many other things are in my life. So those times that we go through, I'm sure we're going to go through other hard times. You guys will go through hard times. You can still be in flow in those times, right? The absence of flow in our life is resistance. Don't resist it. Don't. Like, that is the moment that made me the mother I am, the wife I am, the person who will work so hard to share these stories with other people, because it is a ministry to be able to get up and to have a conversation with somebody you don't know, and to look at them and just say, I'm here for you. Like, I can't fix this, to just be with. So that, for me, it was a huge lesson in, again, being present, being in a flow state, and moving into that grief too. When we lost Grace, we were living in a home at the time, and her nursery was ready, everything was ready. Like, we were bringing our first baby home. Those of you that have children who have brought your first child home, it's very it's a very exciting time. And I was like, I can't live here anymore. I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of this house. Like, it just felt like it was closing in on me. So John was like, all right, let's sell the house. And we sold the house, I think, within 3 days, asking price, cash. Like, it was like God was like, here. I was like, thank ya. It's about damn time. And we moved into a house the size of this out on Sullivan's Island. It was literally the smallest house ever. And I call it my healing house. And we moved there, and I grieved really hard, and I leaned into it and felt it. Like, I let it literally, I lived in it. I lived in a pool of it for about 3 months. And then we had some troubles after that, having another baby. We had another loss. But then we got pregnant with our son, Waylon. We moved into a home that John had built us. And it was like, when they put Waylon on my chest, it was the most redemptive moment of my life. It was literally like air came back into like tissue in my body that had been like this. And I wouldn't have known that otherwise. And I always say, without grace, I would never have Waylon, who's our oldest son, Della, who's our daughter, and Van, who's our other son. And, you know, people are like, I mean, so are you? People have asked me really weird questions sometimes. Are you happy that that happened? Am I happy my baby died? No. But am I leaning into the way my life looks? Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Okay, guys, close your eyes for just a second, okay? Just close your eyes, and if that like totally freaks you out, still do it. This is good for you to be uncomfortable. All right, so take one hand to your heart and one hand to your belly. And without fidgeting or fixing or overthinking it or thinking, this is strange, this is weird, what am I doing, I don't like this. I just want you to breathe, truly breathe. And I want you to feel your body right here, like on this cellular level. Like who you are without all the things. Like who you are without other people in your ear. Who you are without maybe like the perfect bank account or the perfect body. Right? Who you are just in this moment. And just feel that space. And just take a big breath in, just connecting to your breath. And a big breath out. And just stay right there, like just sitting with yourself. This is the art of being with. Right? This is being in flow. When in flow, we flow. And there's this quote I love by Sean Korn. She says, what makes us who we are in this moment is the path we take, a path with no particular destination or endpoint. Each step forward or backward informs and determines the quality of our evolving soul. It adds depth to our experience, but still, it is not who we are. It's the journey we take to come home, only to find we've never left, and what we've been looking for has always been with us all along. Ignore the story and see the soul, and remember to love. You will never regret that. So take a big breath in, and then open your mouth, big breath out. Keep your eyes closed. Just bring your thumbs to the center of your forehead. Okay, so this is where divinity lies. These are the answers that you already know that are in you. This is very intrinsic. And so Mother Teresa used to greet lepers in the street by saying, namaste. The light and the love and the God inside of me sees and honors the light and the love and the God inside of each of you. Truly, God is everywhere all the time. That is love. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you guys so much.